Chapter 1. The House They Thought I Had. I walked into my parents' house thinking it was just another family gathering, until my grandfather asked one simple question that froze the entire room. He said he bought me a house years ago, and I realized in that moment that I had never lived in it. What followed wasn't shouting or chaos, but something worse: silence, lies, and a truth that showed my family had been living my life for me. I'm Sloane, and this is the story of how my own family stole my future and how the quietest revenge turned everything upside down. The driveway was lined with cars that had never seen a grocery store parking lot. My parents lived in a quiet cul-de-sac outside Kansas City, the kind of neighborhood where lawns were edged like haircuts and the front porches existed mostly for decoration. Their house sat back from the street with warm lights in every window and a wreath that looked like it came straight from a catalog. Every time I pulled up, I felt the same strange combination of being expected and being out of place. I turned off the engine and sat for a second with my hand still on the steering wheel. The heater in my old sedan coughed out air that smelled faintly like dust. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror, not because I cared how I looked, but because I had learned that this was the first test. If I looked tired, someone would call it unprofessional. If I looked put together, someone would ask why I was not doing more with my life. I grabbed the pie I had picked up from a grocery store on the way in. It was not homemade. My mother would notice. My father would pretend not to. Either way, it would become a fact they used to tell the story of me. Inside, the house was warm and bright. The entryway smelled like pine, cinnamon, and whatever candle my mother insisted was the scent of a stable household. Voices floated from the living room. Laughter, a little too loud. The kind of laughter that meant people were performing ease. My mother appeared before I could take off my boots. Janice Parker, 59, hair smooth, sweater perfect, earrings that matched the gold ribbon on the tree. "There you are," she said, taking the pie from my hands before I could offer it. "You made good time." "Traffic was fine," I said. She looked me over, quick and practiced, like she was checking a list. Then she smiled in the way that was supposed to feel welcoming. "Come in. Everyone is here." Everyone. That word always made my shoulders tighten. The living room was full. My father, Graham Parker, 62, stood near the fireplace with a drink in his hand, talking to a man in a blazer about interest rates and property lines. My brother Ethan, 37, was on the couch, laughing with his wife. My cousin Brielle Knox, 28, hovered near the tree with her phone angled slightly upward, as if the holiday lights were for her and not for the room. When Brielle spotted me, her smile snapped on like a filter. "Sloane," she said, coming over with arms open. She smelled expensive, the kind of perfume that made you feel like you were standing in the cosmetics aisle at a department store. "You made it." I hugged her briefly. Brielle always hugged like she was thinking about how it would look in a photo. "You look good," she said, pulling back and letting her eyes travel over my coat and my shoes. "That is a nice color on you, very neutral." "Thanks," I said. She nodded, as if I had confirmed something she already believed. "Still doing your design work, right?" she asked, voice bright. "I saw that logo you posted. Super cute." "I do freelance," I said. Freelance, a word that sounded like freedom to some people and like failure to my family. My mother glided in behind her. "Sloane is very creative," she said, like creativity was a personality trait you used when you did not have a title. My father turned as if he had heard his cue. "Hey, kiddo," Graham said. He kissed my cheek, then stepped back with the polite distance he always used around me. "How is business?" "Busy," I said. It was not entirely a lie. He nodded, satisfied with the fact that I had not said struggling. "You know," Ethan said from the couch, "we were just talking about how crazy housing has gotten. You still in that apartment downtown?" It was not an accusation. It was worse. It was casual, as if it was a harmless detail about me, like I preferred tea over coffee. I kept my expression steady. "Yeah, same place." My mother made a small sound that could have been sympathy, could have been disappointment. It's temporary, she said, like she was reassuring herself. You know we just want you to be secure. You can't build a real life in a rental forever. I wanted to tell her I had built a life in that rental. I had built it with late nights, client calls, invoices, and the quiet satisfaction of paying my own bills. But the words never landed the way I meant them to in this house. They turned into excuses the moment they left my mouth. I smiled, small and contained. I'm fine, I said. My father lifted his glass slightly, as if that settled it. Good, good, as long as you have a plan. A plan. There was always a plan required of me, like the life I lived didn't count unless it resembled theirs. In the kitchen, the counter was crowded with dishes. My mother had done what she always did, an entire spread designed to prove she was thriving. People drifted in and out, complimenting her, taking photos of the food. Brielle staged a quick video near the stove, murmuring about cozy vibes and family traditions. I hovered on the edge of conversations, answering questions with short responses. Where are you working now? Are you still doing those little projects? Have you thought about going back to a real company? Do you ever worry about health insurance? I had learned to treat those questions like weather. You nodded, you smiled, you let them pass. Then the front door opened. I didn't notice it at first. I noticed the way the room shifted. Conversations paused mid-sentence, then restarted in softer tones. My mother went still. My father lowered his glass slightly, like he forgot what to do with his hands. A man stepped into the entryway with a dark coat draped over his arm. Tall, even with age bending him a little, white hair, neatly cut. His face was lined, but his eyes were sharp, the kind that made you feel seen even if he wasn't looking directly at you. Harlan Whitaker, my grandfather. I hadn't seen him in years, not up close, not in a room like this, surrounded by people who pretend they didn't care about money while tracking every sign of it. My mother was the first to move. She crossed the room too quickly, smiled too wide. "Dad, what a surprise!" My father followed, his voice warmer than it had been all night. "Harlan, I didn't know you were coming." Harlan didn't answer the way people usually answered that. He didn't apologize. He didn't explain. He just stepped farther into the room and looked around, taking in faces, details, the polished version of a family gathering. Then his eyes landed on me. For a moment, everything else faded. The chatter, the clink of dishes, Brielle quietly lowering her phone. "Sloan," he said, coming over with arms open. He smelled expensive, the kind of perfume that made you feel like you were standing in the cosmetics aisle at a department store. "You made it." I hugged her briefly. Brielle always hugged like she was thinking about how it would look in a photo. "You look good," she said, pulling back and letting her eyes travel over my coat and my shoes. "That is a nice color on you, very neutral." "Thanks," I said. She nodded, as if I had confirmed something she already believed. "Still doing your design work, right?" she asked, voice bright. "I saw that logo you posted. Super cute." "I do freelance," I said. Freelance, a word that sounded like freedom to some people and like failure to my family. My mother glided in behind her. "Sloan is very creative," she said, like creativity was a personality trait you used when you did not have a title. My father turned as if he had heard his cue. "Hey, kiddo," Graham said. He kissed my cheek, then stepped back with the polite distance he always used around me. "How is business?" "Busy," I said. It was not entirely a lie. He nodded, satisfied with the fact that I had not said struggling. "You know," Ethan said from the couch, "we were just talking about how crazy housing has gotten. You still in that apartment downtown?" It was not an accusation. It was worse. It was casual, as if it was a harmless detail about me, like I preferred tea over coffee. I kept my expression steady. "Yeah, same place." My mother made a small sound that could have been sympathy, could have been disappointment. "It's temporary," she said, like she was reassuring herself. "You know we just want you to be secure. You can't build a real life in a rental forever." I wanted to tell her I had built a life in that rental. I had built it with late nights, client calls, invoices, and the quiet satisfaction of paying my own bills. But the words never landed the way I meant them to in this house. They turned into excuses the moment they left my mouth. I smiled, small and contained. "I'm fine," I said. My father lifted his glass slightly, as if that settled it. "Good, good, as long as you have a plan." A plan. There was always a plan required of me, like the life I lived didn't count unless it resembled theirs. In the kitchen, the counter was crowded with dishes. My mother had done what she always did, an entire spread designed to prove she was thriving. People drifted in and out, complimenting her, taking photos of the food. Brielle staged a quick video near the stove, murmuring about cozy vibes and family traditions. I hovered on the edge of conversations, answering questions with short responses. "Where are you working now? Are you still doing those little projects? Have you thought about going back to a real company? Do you ever worry about health insurance?" I had learned to treat those questions like weather. You nodded, you smiled, you let them pass. Then the front door opened. I did not notice it at first. I noticed the way the room shifted. Conversations paused mid-sentence, then restarted in softer tones. My mother went still. My father lowered his glass slightly, like he had forgotten what to do with his hands. A man stepped into the entryway with a dark coat draped over his arm. Tall, even with age bending him a little. White hair, neatly cut. His face was lined, but his eyes were sharp, the kind that made you feel seen, even if he was not looking directly at you. Harlan Whitaker, my grandfather. I had not seen him in years, not up close, not in a room like this, surrounded by people who pretended they did not care about money while tracking every sign of it. My mother was the first to move. She crossed the room too quickly, smile too wide. "Dad," she said, "what a surprise." My father followed, his voice warmer than it had been all night. "Harlan, I did not know you were coming." Harlan did not answer the way people usually answered that. He did not apologize. He did not explain. He just stepped farther into the room and looked around, taking in faces, details, the polished version of a family gathering. Then his eyes landed on me. For a moment, everything else faded. The chatter, the clink of dishes, Brielle quietly lowering her phone. "Sloan," he said. My throat tightened. I had not expected to hear my name from him, not like that, not steady and certain. "Hi," I said. He walked toward me with a pace that was slow but deliberate. When he reached me, he held my gaze, as if checking something. Not my clothes, not my posture, something underneath all that. "You look tired," he said quietly. I almost laughed. It was the first honest observation anyone had made about me all night. "Work has been a lot," I said. He nodded, like he believed me. He turned slightly, looking at my parents, then back at me. "You still living in that place?" he asked. "Or did you ever move into the house?" The word house landed like a dropped plate. I blinked. "What house?" I said. The room did not go silent all at once. It went silent in parts, like a wave pulling back from shore. A few people still laughed at something in the kitchen, then realized no one else was laughing. My cousin froze near the tree. My brother stopped mid-sip. My mother's face changed for a fraction of a second, something sharp and startled, then it smoothed out again. My father's jaw tightened. Not anger, calculation. Harlan looked at me, eyes narrowing, not in suspicion of me, but in focus. "The house I helped buy for you a few years back," he said. "Your mother told me you were settled, that you loved it." I felt heat rush up my neck. I felt every pair of eyes in the room turn toward me, waiting for me to play my role. The role of the daughter who was doing fine. The role of the grateful, modest underachiever. I swallowed. I have never owned a house, I said. I rent. I have always rented. My mother let out a breath that sounded like a laugh, but it did not reach her eyes. Sloan, honey, she said, voice light, like she was correcting me gently. You know what he means. I looked at her. No, I said, I do not. My father stepped in, smile tight. Let us not do this right now, Graham said. Everyone is here. Harlan, it has been a long trip. You should sit down. Harlan did not sit. He stayed where he was, looking from my parents to me. Sloan, he said again, softer now, are you telling me you never moved into that house? I could hear my own heartbeat. I could feel my hands starting to shake, so I pressed my fingers against the edge of the counter behind me. I am telling you I do not know what you are talking about, I said. I live in a one-bedroom rental on the edge of downtown. I have for years. My brother's eyes flicked to my parents. Brielle's mouth parted slightly, then closed. Someone near the kitchen set down a glass too hard. My mother's smile stayed in place, but her cheeks looked tight. Well, she said, we can talk about it later. This is not the time. Harlan's expression did not change much, but something in his gaze hardened. No, he said, voice calm, this is exactly the time. The words hung there, heavy, unavoidable. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to rewind the last 10 seconds and answer differently, say something safe, something that would let the evening glide back into its comfortable lies. But I couldn't unsay what I had said, and as I looked at my mother and my father, both of them perfectly composed, in a way that felt rehearsed, I understood something I had not understood when I walked in. There was a story they had been telling about me, a story I had been living inside without knowing the full plot. I backed away slightly, not running, just creating space so I could breathe. My mother reached for my arm, gentle, controlling. Sweetheart, please, not in front of everyone. I pulled my arm free, still calm on the outside, because I had trained myself to be calm in this house. I am not the one who brought it up, I said. Harlan watched me, then looked at my parents. My father's smile faltered for the first time. The room remained frozen, like the whole house was holding its breath. I did not know what would happen next. I only knew something had cracked open, and the air felt different, like it would never quite go back to the way it was, even if we all pretended it could. I set my hands flat on the counter to steady myself, and I told myself one thing as the silence stretched. Whatever that house was, it was not mine, and somehow that meant someone else had been living in the life that was supposed to belong to me. Chapter 2. What my parents never told me. I stood there with my palms on the counter until my fingers stopped trembling. The room stayed suspended in that awkward in-between where no one knew what to do next, and everyone pretended they did. My mother moved first, because she always did. She smiled at my aunt, laughed too brightly at something no one had said, and began collecting empty glasses, like she could sweep the moment into a trash bag with the napkins. My father cleared his throat and stepped closer to Harlan. "Let us sit down," he said, low and careful. "We can talk in the study." Harlan did not look at him. He kept his eyes on me as if I was the only person in the room who mattered. "Sloan," he said, "come with me." My mother's hand found my elbow again, light pressure, the kind that used to guide me across parking lots when I was small. "Honey," she whispered, "please, you do not have to get involved in this." I looked at her hand on my arm. I looked at her face. She was trying to look calm, but the skin around her eyes was tight. My father's smile was gone now. It was replaced by the kind of neutral expression he used when negotiating a deal. "I am already involved," I said. Harlan turned and walked toward the hallway without waiting. I followed. The air felt colder as we moved away from the noise of the living room. My parents' study smells like leather and old paper. My father's desk sat under a framed photo of him and my mother at some charity gala. In the corner, a small bookshelf held titles about investing and leadership. Everything in this room was designed to say they were competent, responsible, in control. Harlan stood near the window, hands clasped behind his back. For a long moment he did not speak. I could hear the muffled voices from the other room, the party trying to restart itself without us. My mother hovered near the door. My father shut it halfway, not fully, like he wanted an escape route. Harlan finally turned and faced them. "Tell me exactly what you told me," he said. My mother blinked, still trying to play the hostess. "Dad," she said, "we did tell you. We said Sloane was doing well. She is doing well." Harlan's gaze did not waver. "You said she was settled in the house," he replied. "You said she loved it. You said she thanked you." My father stepped forward with a measured exhale. "Harlan," he said, "it was a misunderstanding. You know how Sloane is. She does not always communicate clearly. She gets in her head." I felt my stomach twist. Even now, even with me standing there, he was trying to make it about my temperament. Harlan looked at me again. "Do you want to explain that to me?" he asked, as if he already knew the answer but wanted to give me the space to say it. I shook my head slowly. "There is nothing to explain," I said. "I rent. I have never owned anything. I don't even know what house you're talking about." My mother's voice sharpened slightly. "Sloane," she said, "you do not have to make it sound like we did something terrible. We were trying to help you." "Help me how?" I asked. The words came out flatter than I expected. Not angry, just exhausted. My father lifted his hands, palms out, like he was calming down a client. "We were protecting you," he said. "You were not ready for a mortgage. You were switching jobs. Your income was all over the place. You would have panicked, and then we would have had to clean it up." I stared at him. "You did not think to ask me," I said. "You just decided." My mother took a step toward me. "Sweetheart," she said, "you were already under so much pressure. We did not want you to feel obligated. We did not want you to feel like you owed anyone anything." I almost laughed, but it came out as a breath. "I have felt like I owed you everything for years," I said. "That didn't stop you." Harlan's voice cut through, calm but edged. "Stop talking around it," he said. "Janice, Graham, what did you do with the money?" My parents both went still, like the room itself had stiffened. "What money?" my mother said, too quickly. Harlan's eyes narrowed. "Do not insult me," he said. "Almost 10 years ago, I wired $280,000 to you. It was for Sloane. I told you that. I wrote it in the memo line. Housing for Sloane." My throat tightened so hard it hurt. 280,000. The number sat between us like a physical object. My father's jaw worked once, like he was chewing on his next sentence. "That was a long time ago," he said. Harlan's expression did not change. "It doesn't stop being money because time passes," he replied. My mother's hands lifted to her chest, fingers brushing her necklace. "Dad," she said, "you know we were in a complicated situation back then. Things were different. Sloane was different." I turned to Harlan because I could not look at my mother without feeling sick. "You sent them that?" I said, voice quiet. "For me?" He nodded. "You were working 2 jobs. I knew you were proud. I knew you wouldn't take a check from me directly, so I did what families do. I trusted your parents, I assumed they would use it for you, and I assumed they would tell you in a way that did not make you feel indebted." I swallowed hard. "They never told me," I said. Harlan's gaze moved back to my father. "I asked about it more than once," he said. "You told me it was handled. You told me she moved in. You told me she was happy." My father cleared his throat again, eyes darting to me and then away. "We did not lie," he said. "Not exactly." "Not exactly?" Harlan repeated. My mother took a breath, as if she were preparing a speech. "We did buy something," she said. "We looked. We found options. We considered what would be best. But then the market shifted. Rates changed. And honestly, Sloane's work was not stable. It did not feel responsible to put her name on anything. You could have put my name on it and helped me budget. You could have taught me. You could have asked me what I wanted." My mother's eyes flashed. "And what would you have wanted?" she asked. Something artistic and overpriced downtown? Something that looks cute on Instagram? You don't think long-term, Sloan. My father stepped in smoothly. We held the money, he said. We planned to use it when she was ready. When was I going to be ready? I asked. 40? 50? When you decided I was mature enough? My mother's mouth tightened. You have always taken things personally, she said. Harlan's voice stayed quiet, which somehow made it worse. Show me, he said. My father blinked. Show you what? He asked. The paperwork, the closing documents, the title, the mortgage. If you bought a house for her, there will be a trail. Show me where the money went. My father's eyes flicked to his desk. My mother's gaze went to the bookshelf as if the right answer might be tucked between the spines. We don't have it in here, my father said. Harlan stepped closer, not threatening, just undeniable. Then where is it? He asked. My mother's voice softened, trying a new angle. Dad, she said, please, this is embarrassing. Not just for us, for Sloan, too. Do you want everyone out there gossiping about her finances? I felt something shift inside me. She said her finances as if I was the one who had done something shameful. Harlan looked at me again. Are you embarrassed? He asked. I hesitated. The honest answer was yes, but not for the reason she meant. I am embarrassed that I believed them, I said. My father's face hardened slightly. You are making it sound like we stole from you, he said. Harlan's eyes sharpened. What would you call it then? He asked. My mother's voice rose just a notch. We are her parents, she said. Everything we do is for her. I looked at her. If it was for me, why did you hide it? I asked. She almost laughed, but it came out as a breath. I have felt like I owed you everything for years, I said. That didn't stop you. Harlan's voice cut through, calm but edged. Show me, he said. My father blinked. Show you what? He asked. The paperwork, the closing documents, the title, the mortgage. If you bought a house for her, there will be a trail. Show me where the money went. My father's eyes flicked to his desk. My mother's gaze went to the bookshelf as if the right answer might be tucked between the spines. We don't have it in here, my father said. Harlan stepped closer, not threatening, just undeniable. Then where is it? He asked. My mother's voice softened, trying a new angle. Dad, she said, please, this is embarrassing. Not just for us, for Sloan, too. Do you want everyone out there gossiping about her finances? I felt something shift inside me. She said her finances as if I was the one who had done something shameful. Harlan looked at me again. Are you embarrassed? He asked. I hesitated. The honest answer was yes, but not for the reason she meant. I am embarrassed that I believed them, I said. My father's face hardened slightly. You are making it sound like we stole from you, he said. Harlan's eyes sharpened. What would you call it then? He asked. My mother's voice rose just a notch. We are her parents, she said. Everything we do is for her. I looked at her. If it was for me, why did you hide it? I asked. She almost laughed, but it came out as a breath. I have felt like I owed you everything for years, I said. That didn't stop you. Harlan's voice cut through, calm but edged. Show me, he said. My father blinked. Show you what? He asked. The paperwork, the closing documents, the title, the mortgage. If you bought a house for her, there will be a trail. Show me where the money went. My father's eyes flicked to his desk. My mother's gaze went to the bookshelf as if the right answer might be tucked between the spines. We don't have it in here, my father said. Harlan stepped closer, not threatening, just undeniable. Then where is it? He asked. My mother's voice softened, trying a new angle. Dad, she said, please, this is embarrassing. Not just for us, for Sloan too. Do you want everyone out there gossiping about her finances? I felt something shift inside me. She said her finances, as if I was the one who had done something shameful. Harlan looked at me again. Are you embarrassed? He asked. I hesitated. The honest answer was yes, but not for the reason she meant. I am embarrassed that I believe them, I said. My father's face hardened slightly. You are making it sound like we stole from you, he said. Harlan's eyes sharpened. "What would you call it then?" he asked. My mother's voice rose just a notch. "We are her parents," she said. "Everything we do is for her." I looked at her. "If it was for me, why did you hide it?" I asked. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Harlan exhaled once, slow. "I want you both in my hotel tomorrow morning," he said. 8 o'clock. Bring your bank statements from the last 10 years. Bring any paperwork connected to that wire transfer. Bring any purchase you made with it. If you do not, I will find it another way." My father straightened, defensive. "You cannot just demand that," he said. Harlan's voice stayed level. "I can," he replied, "because it was my money and it was meant for her, and because I am tired of people speaking for Sloan as if she is not standing right here." My mother's eyes went glossy, the way they did when she wanted sympathy. "Dad," she said, "please, do not do this." Harlan did not soften. "You already did it," he said. "I am just finally looking at it." He turned to me. "Sloan," he said, "are you coming with me?" I looked at my parents. My mother looked wounded. My father looked irritated. Neither of them looked guilty, not really. They looked like people who thought they had made a reasonable choice and were upset it was being questioned. I nodded. "Yes," I said. My mother took a step forward. "Sloan," she said, "wait. We can talk, just you and me. We can explain everything." I believed she thought she could. I believed she thought an explanation would make it acceptable. I backed away gently. "I have listened my whole life," I said. "I think it is time I saw the facts." I followed Harlan out of the study. The living room noise hit us again, louder now, forced. People pretended not to stare. My cousin turned her phone away like she had been recording. My brother's eyes found mine, and for a second, he looked like he wanted to speak, but he did not. That silence felt familiar. Too familiar. Outside, the night air was cold enough to sting. Harlan walked toward the driveway without looking back. I stood on the porch for a moment, listening to the party behind me try to recover, and I realized I was not just questioning one story. I was questioning every version of me they had built without my consent. When I got into my car, my hands were steady again. I drove away from the house with the windows up and the radio off, and the only sound was the quiet rhythm of my own breathing, like my body was trying to learn what it felt like to finally take up space in my own life. Chapter 3. The Silence That Made It Possible. By the time I reached my apartment, my hands smelled like cold steering wheel and cheap air freshener. I parked in my usual spot behind the building where the security light flickered like it was tired too. The stairwell smelled faintly of laundry detergent and old carpet. Inside my place, the heat clicked on late, then hummed like it was deciding whether it was worth the effort. I set my keys down and stood in the middle of the living room, if you could call it that. A couch that was too big for the space. A tiny table with my laptop and a stack of unpaid invoices. A plant I kept alive out of stubbornness. My phone buzzed. Ethan. I stared at his name for a second, then answered. "Hey." "Where are you?" he asked. His voice was low, like he had stepped into a quiet room to make the call. "Home?" There was a pause. I could hear muted voices behind him, like my parents were still entertaining people, still trying to stitch the evening back together. "Mom is freaking out," he said. "Is she?" I replied, and even to my own ears I sounded calmer than I felt. "Sloan, come on," he said. "You know how she gets." I leaned against the counter and looked at my kitchen sink, where a single glass sat from yesterday because I had not bothered to wash it. "How she gets?" I repeated, "like I caused this?" "That is not what I said," he snapped, then softened. "I just mean it did not have to happen in front of everyone." "It did not have to happen at all," I said. He sighed. "Harlan is at the hotel, right? He is really doing this." "He's asking for facts," I said. "That should not be scary unless someone is hiding something." Another pause, heavier this time. "Ethan," I said, "did you know?" His breath caught, barely, but it was enough. "No," he said quickly, too quickly. Not like that. Not like what? I asked. He hesitated. I knew there was money, he admitted. Years ago, I overheard them talking. Dad said something about a wire transfer from Harlan, but they made it sound like it was handled, like it was part of family stuff. My throat tightened. The words landed like a second betrayal, not as sharp as my parents, but duller, deeper. You knew there was money for me, I said, keeping my voice steady, and you never asked me if I got it. I did not know it was for you, he said. I mean, I suspected, but I didn't know. They didn't say it outright. But you suspected, I said. It was not my business, he replied, defensive now. That's between them and Harlan. It's between them and you, I guess. I didn't want to get dragged into it. I stared at the wall, at the faint scuff mark near the baseboard that I had meant to paint over for 2 years. You were already in it, I said. You just stayed quiet so you could pretend you weren't. He exhaled through his nose. You're making me sound like a villain, he said. I'm not, I replied. I'm making you sound like you chose comfort over truth. He went quiet. When he spoke again, his voice was tighter. Sloan, I have a family. I have a job. I cannot be in the middle of Mom and Dad doing whatever they do. I just keep my head down. I pictured him on my parents' couch, his wife beside him, their lives neatly aligned with my parents' definition of stability. I pictured him watching me get questioned about my rent and my work, while he said nothing. You have always kept your head down, I said softly. He did not answer. I could have ended the call there. I could have hung up and let the silence do what silence always did. But something in me was tired of being the only one forced to carry consequences. Ethan, I said, do you want to know what it feels like to be the person everyone keeps quiet about? It feels like being erased in real time. His voice dropped. I did not erase you, he said quickly. I let you, I replied. He swallowed, and I could hear it. I did see signs, he admitted. Little things, like Dad making a big deal about the cabin at the lake and Mom saying it was a smart move, like they got it at the perfect time, like it just fell into their lap. I thought, good for them. I didn't ask where the money came from. I didn't want to know. My stomach turned, not because he was confessing, but because it sounded like the truth. He didn't want to know. Why? I asked. Because if I knew, then I would have to do something, and doing something would have blown everything up, and I thought maybe it wasn't as bad as it looked. It was worse, I said. He made a sound like he was trying to hold his breath and failing. Can I come over? He asked suddenly, just to talk, not at their house, not with them listening. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to say no out of principle. Another part wanted to see his face when he couldn't hide behind their walls. Fine, I said, but don't bring excuses. An hour later, his headlights swept across the cracked asphalt outside my building. I watched from the window as he got out, tugging his jacket tighter. He looked around like he was surprised I lived here, even though he'd known my address for years. When he knocked, I opened the door without smiling. He stepped inside and froze for a second, taking in the space. The narrow living room, the tiny kitchen, the old heater clicking on and off. His eyes moved to the stack of envelopes on my table. He tried to sound normal. It's smaller than I pictured, he said. I let out a short breath. You pictured something else because they told you a story. His face flushed. I did not think you were struggling, he said. I'm not asking you to pity me. I'm asking you to stop pretending you didn't see anything. He sat on the edge of my couch like he was afraid it would stain his jeans. Mom said you were dramatic. She always said you took things to heart. I stared at him. Do you hear yourself? Even now, you're repeating her lines. He looked up, startled, like he hadn't realized he was doing it. I'm sorry, he said quickly. I didn't mean it like that. A ringing cut through the room before I could respond. My phone. The screen showed my landlord's number, and my stomach sank. I answered on the second ring. Hi, Mr. Delgado? His voice came through brisk and apologetic. Sloan, I hate to do this, but the plumber was just here. The leak under your bathroom sink is worse.
He says the cabinet is rotting. It's going to cost more than we thought. I closed my eyes. How much more? 800, he said. I can cover part, but the building is old. You know how it is. If you can handle 300 now, I'll take care of the rest and we can work the rest out next month. I pressed my fingers to my forehead. $300 wasn't impossible. It was just another thing, another small crisis in a life built on careful math. I'll send it tonight. Thank you for letting me know. I hung up and stared at the floor for a moment before looking at Ethan. He was watching me like he'd just seen something he couldn't unsee. Did he just ask you for money for repairs? He asked, quietly. It's either that or the sink keeps leaking into the cabinet. This is how renting works when you don't live in a place that comes with spare parts and spare cash. His mouth opened, then closed. Sloan, he said quietly, you're paying for the building to not fall apart. Yes, and I've been doing that while Mom tells everyone I'm learning responsibility. He looked down at his hands. I thought you were okay, he said. I was surviving, I corrected, and I was doing it alone. That's the part you never asked about. His shoulders sagged. I should have asked, he said. Why didn't you? I asked. He swallowed. Because asking would mean choosing, and I didn't want to choose between you and them. I stared at him, and something in my chest loosened in a sad, quiet way. Not choosing is still a choice, I said. He nodded once, barely. I know, he whispered. We sat in silence for a moment, not the comfortable kind, the kind that makes you feel the shape of what's been missing. Finally, Ethan looked up. What do you want me to do? He asked. I considered the question. 10 years ago, I would have asked for him to defend me at family dinners, to correct my mother when she'd belittled my work, to tell my father to stop treating my life like a failed investment. Tonight, I realized I didn't want him to perform loyalty. I wanted him to be honest. I want you to stop helping them hide, I said. When Harlan asks questions, don't cover for them. When Mom tries to rewrite this into something that's my fault, don't let her. And if you know something, say it, even if it's uncomfortable. His eyes glistened, and he blinked hard. I can do that, he said. I believed he meant it in that moment. I also knew intentions were easy in my living room, far away from my parents' polished walls. Ethan stood, hesitated, then stepped toward the door. I'm sorry, he said again, quieter. I really am. I nodded because I didn't have anything soft left to give him. After he left, the apartment felt even smaller. The heater clicked. A car passed by outside. Somewhere above me, someone ran water for too long. I sat down on my couch and stared at the stack of envelopes on my table. For years, I thought the worst thing my family could do was judge me. Tonight, I understood something sharper. They could decide my life for me, and the people closest to me could watch it happen and call it peace. And now that I had finally heard the truth out loud, I couldn't pretend I hadn't.
Chapter 4. When the Truth Left a Paper Trail. The next morning, the sun came up like nothing had happened. I barely slept, not because I was afraid, but because my brain kept replaying the same moments with new meaning. My mother smoothing her smile, my father calculating his words, Ethan sitting on my couch, realizing he had mistaken my quiet for comfort. My phone lit up at 6:30 with a text from Harlan. Lobby, 7:45. I pulled on the cleanest clothes I owned, not to impress anyone, but because I wanted to look like myself, not the version my family described when they needed me to be smaller. I drove to Harlan's hotel with my stomach tight and my shoulders set. The lobby smelled like coffee and expensive cologne. Harlan was already there, standing near the windows with a folder in his hand. He looked rested, which felt unfair, like he had been built for rooms like this, and I had spent my life learning how not to take up space in them. He nodded at me when I approached. You ready? As I can be, I said. He handed me a paper cup. Drink something. This day will be long. Before I could respond, the elevator doors opened. My parents stepped out first, dressed like they were headed to a networking breakfast. My father's tie was perfectly knotted. My mother's hair was smooth, her makeup soft and intentional. Ethan walked behind them, eyes down. My mother's smile appeared when she saw me, thin and careful. "Sloan," she said. My father did not smile. He looked annoyed, like this was an inconvenience he planned to solve. Harlan did not bother with pleasantries. "Do you have what I asked for?" My father held up a slim binder. "We brought documents," he said. "Whatever you think you need." Harlan looked at the binder like it was an offering. "Good," he replied. "We are not doing this in the lobby. We are going to my attorney." My mother's expression tightened. "Attorney?" she repeated. "Dad, this is family." Harlan's gaze stayed steady. "Family does not move money in the dark," he said. The car ride was quiet. Harlan sat in the front seat with the driver. I sat in the back with my parents and Ethan. The silence felt heavier than any argument. My mother stared out the window like she was holding herself together by force. My father tapped his thumb against the binder, a small, impatient rhythm. Ethan leaned slightly toward me. "I am here," he whispered. I did not answer, not because I was punishing him, but because I was still learning what it meant to stop cushioning other people's discomfort. The law office was downtown, in a building with glass doors and a lobby that made you lower your voice automatically. A receptionist led us into a conference room with a long table and a wall of framed diplomas. A woman walked in a moment later, carrying a laptop and a thick folder. She was in her 40s, hair pulled back, glasses simple, posture calm. She shook Harlan's hand first, then nodded at the rest of us. "I am Dana Mercer," she said. "I represent Mr. Whitaker." My mother opened her mouth, but Dana continued smoothly. "This meeting is not a trial. It is a fact-finding conversation. That means I will ask questions. I will request documents. If you do not know an answer, you say you do not know. If you do know an answer, you tell the truth. Understood?" My father's voice came out controlled. "Understood." Dana looked at him. "You are Graham Parker." "Yes," he said. "And Janice Parker?" she added, looking to my mother. My mother nodded. Dana turned her attention to me. "And you are Sloan Parker?" "Yes," I said. She offered me a small, professional smile, not pity, not sympathy, just acknowledgement. Dana opened her folder and slid a printed page across the table toward my father. "Mr. Whitaker provided confirmation of a wire transfer dated March of 2015, amount $280,000. Memo line states housing for Sloan. Do you dispute that transfer?" My father's fingers tightened on the edge of the paper. "No," he said. Dana nodded once. "Did you use those funds to purchase any real property?" My mother cut in quickly. "We were planning to, but Sloan was not ready. Her income was unstable." Dana did not look at her. "Mrs. Parker, I will come to you. Mr. Parker, yes or no?" My father's jaw worked. "No," he said. A quiet click of Dana's pen. "Did you use those funds to purchase any real property?" My father hesitated, and for the first time I watched him realize that the room did not bend around him. There was no charm here, no social smoothing, just a question waiting. "He bought a place later," he said. Dana tilted her head slightly. "Define later." My father glanced at my mother. She looked back at him, eyes wide with warning. "2 years later," he said. Dana typed something. "And what was purchased?" "A small lake cabin," he said, voice clipped. "An investment. It was a good time to buy." My stomach turned. Cabin. The one my mother liked to brag about. The place they called a blessing, a smart move, a reward for their hard work. Dana's eyes lifted. "Whose names are on the deed?" My father swallowed. "Mine and Janice's."
Dana did not react. She slid another paper across the table, a property record printout. This I pulled before the meeting. The purchase date is September of 2017. The down payment amount matches a withdrawal from your account within 48 hours of the closing. That withdrawal is traced to the same account that received Mr. Whittaker's wire transfer. Do you dispute that? My mother's breath hitched. That's not fair. You can't say it's the same money. Money moves around. Dana turned her gaze to my mother now, steady and unbothered. Money does move, which is why we follow the movement. We have bank statements, we have dates, we have amounts. If you have documents that show the funds were preserved for Sloan and not spent, you can provide them. My father's voice raised slightly. We were holding it. We meant to use it for her when she was ready. We didn't think she would stay in that rental forever. I felt heat behind my eyes, but I kept my voice calm. I never knew that. You did not hold it for me. You held it from me. My mother turned toward me, face tightening. Sloan, stop, she snapped, then softened immediately when she saw Dana watching. We were trying to protect you. Dana raised her hand slightly, not in a scolding way, but to keep the conversation from tipping into emotion that would blur the facts. I'm going to ask a question that matters legally, she said. Did either of you ever inform Sloan Parker in writing that funds were being held on her behalf? My father stared at the table. No, he said. Dana's voice stayed even. Did you ever provide her an accounting of the funds? No, he said again. Dana's eyes shifted to Ethan. Mr. Parker, you are Ethan Parker. He flinched at the formal address. Yes, he said. Dana's tone remained neutral. Were you aware of the wire transfer from Mr. Whittaker intended for your sister? Ethan looked at his parents, then at me. His face flushed. I knew there was a wire, he admitted. I didn't know the details. I didn't ask. Dana nodded, typing. Did you ever tell your sister that you had heard about it? Ethan's voice dropped. No, he said. My mother let out a small, frustrated sound. So now you're putting this on him. He did nothing wrong. Dana's gaze held. He is not on trial. I'm establishing who knew what and when. Silence is not a crime, but it can be relevant. My father leaned forward, trying to regain control. What do you want? What is the goal here? You want to embarrass us? Fine, you did it. Harlan spoke for the first time since we sat down. His voice was quiet, and it cut through the room. The goal is to repair what you broke, he said. My mother's eyes filled, the same practiced gloss she used when she wanted to turn a problem into a misunderstanding. Dad, she said, voice trembling, we are your family. Harlan's gaze stayed steady. And she's my family, he replied, nodding slightly toward me. You treated her like an afterthought. Dana closed her folder and rested her hands on it. Here's where we are. You received funds designated for Sloan Parker's housing. You did not purchase a home in her name. You did not disclose that to her. You later purchased property in your own names with funds traced to that account. That creates exposure, civil, potentially criminal depending on what additional facts show. My father's face went pale. You are threatening us, he said. I am informing you. There is a difference. Harlan sat his hand across the table, not touching anyone, just occupying space. You have 30 days, he said. You will either repay the full amount into an account Dana sets up for Sloan, or you will agree to transfer the lake property to a trust that benefits her with proper documentation and oversight. If you do neither, Dana will proceed.
My mother's mouth fell open. You cannot do that, she said, voice shaking. Harlan's expression stayed calm. I can, he said, and I will. My father looked at me, eyes sharp with accusation, like I had orchestrated the whole thing. You wanted this, he said. I met his gaze. No, I said. I wanted parents who did not lie to me. Dana stood, signaling the meeting was over. "I will send written terms by end of day," she said. "You will respond through counsel, not through Sloan, not through family pressure." My parents stood too, stiff and silent. Ethan lingered, looking like he wanted to say something, but he did not. When we left the conference room, my mother reached for my arm again in the hallway. "Sloan, please," she whispered. "Do not let him do this. We can fix it quietly." I stepped back. "Quiet is how you got away with it," I said. Outside, the air felt sharper, like the city had edges I had not noticed before. Harlan walked beside me toward the car. He did not ask if I was okay. He did not tell me to be strong. He just said something simple, almost practical. "Now we have the truth on paper," he said. "That is when things change." I looked back at the building for a moment, at the glass doors closing behind my parents, at Ethan standing a few steps away, shoulders slumped. For the first time, the story was not something my family could rewrite with a smile. It was documented, timed, signed. And as I got into the car, I realized my hands were steady again, not because I was numb, but because the ground under me finally felt real. Chapter 5. What I Kept, What I Let Go. The days that followed moved differently, slower but heavier, like every hour carried more weight than it used to. My parents did not wait long to reach out. My phone rang the morning after the meeting, and again that afternoon, and again the next day. I let the calls go to voicemail at first, not out of spite, but because I needed to hear my own thoughts before I let theirs back in. When I finally answered, my mother sounded smaller than I remembered. "Sloan," she said, "please, we need to talk." "We can talk," I said, "but not like before." There was a pause, then a careful breath. "We just want to explain," she said. "You already did," I replied. "That is the problem." We met at a coffee shop halfway between my apartment and their house. Neutral ground. No framed photos, no familiar walls to lean on. My father arrived early. My mother came in 10 minutes later, eyes red, makeup perfect. They sat across from me like they were waiting for a verdict. My father spoke first. "We never meant to hurt you," he said. "We thought we were doing the responsible thing." I wrapped my hands around my cup and let the warmth sink into my palms. "You thought you were doing what made sense to you," I said. "Not to me." My mother leaned forward. "You were so overwhelmed back then," she said. "We did not want to add pressure." "You added it anyway," I replied. "You just made sure I carried it alone." She flinched. "We did not know you were struggling like that," she said. "You did not ask," I said gently. "You assumed." My father exhaled through his nose, the sound sharp. "So what now?" he asked. "You cut us off. You let Harlan tear us apart." I met his eyes. "I did not tear anything apart," I said. "I stopped pretending it was whole." Silence stretched between us. My mother reached for my hand, then hesitated, unsure if she was allowed. "I am sorry," she said finally. "I am sorry we did not tell you. I am sorry we decided for you." The words were there, but they felt careful, like they were meant to smooth things over instead of change anything. "I hear you," I said, "but sorry does not mean we go back to how it was." My father frowned. "What does that mean?" he asked. "It means no more decisions about my life without me," I said. "No more stories told on my behalf. No more quiet control." My mother swallowed. "And if we disagree?" she asked. "Then we disagree," I said, "but I'm still in the room." They did not like that answer. I could see it in the way my father looked away, in the way my mother nodded too quickly. But they did not argue, not this time. When we stood to leave, my mother hugged me, tentative and brief. "We'll fix this," she whispered. I stepped back. "You can try," I said, "but fixing it does not mean owning me." Later that week, Ethan came by again. He looked different, quieter, like someone who had lost the comfort of pretending.
I told them everything I knew, he said as soon as he sat down. When Dana asked again, I did not soften it. I nodded. Thank you. He hesitated. I want to be better, he said. I believe you want that. Just remember wanting and doing are not the same. He smiled sadly. I'm learning that. Harlan checked in often, but never in a way that made me feel managed. He sent updates through Dana, documents, deadlines, clear steps forward. When the trust account was set up in my name, it felt strange, not like winning, but like something heavy had been put down where it belonged. I did not suddenly feel rich. I felt steadier. With the immediate pressure lifted, I started noticing things I had been too tired to see. How much energy I spent bracing myself. How often I apologized when I had done nothing wrong. How many choices I delayed because I was waiting for permission no one was going to give me. I updated my portfolio. I followed up with a studio I'd once talked myself out of approaching. When they offered me a contract role, I accepted without asking anyone what they thought. One evening, I stood in my apartment and looked around with different eyes. The space was still small, the heater still rattled, the sink still needed work, but it was mine in a way it hadn't been before, not because of ownership, but because I no longer felt ashamed of it. The lake cabin paperwork came through near the end of the month. My parents chose to transfer it into the trust rather than repay the full amount. Dana handled everything. I did not go to the signing. I didn't need to watch. When my mother told me, her voice tight, she said, "We hope this shows we're trying. It shows you're responding. That's different." She did not argue. On a quiet Sunday morning, I met Harlan for breakfast. He watched me eat like he was making sure I was really there. "You didn't ask me to stop," I asked. "Stop what?" "Everything," he said. "The lawyers, the paperwork." I nodded. I needed it to be real, not just emotional. He smiled sadly. "That's how things change," he said. As I walked home later, the air cool and clean, I realized something that surprised me. I wasn't angry anymore, not because what they did was acceptable, but because I no longer needed anger to protect myself. The victory was quieter than I expected. No speeches, no public apologies, just a steady sense that my life was no longer being edited by other people. For years, I thought being a good daughter meant making myself smaller, easier, less complicated. I thought independence meant doing everything alone. I was wrong about both. What I kept was my voice. What I let go of was the belief that love had to come with control. If you've ever been told that silence keeps the peace, ask yourself who that peace is really for. And if you've ever stayed quiet to avoid conflict, ask yourself what it might cost you in the long run.